Hey, what up, everybody? It's Duran here. Got one off the cuff. So here we are, 2025, in full swing, finally entering spring. Though the weather isn't really reflecting that. However, there's a lot of changes that are happening, things transitioning, and it impacts different segments of the world, industries. Plentiful resources, shortages of resources, the whole supply-demand, supply chain, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, we're in a new administration, and politics always seems to, be the catalyst that brings impulsive change. Whether it is directly related or if it's just kind of like, a supplemental type of thing, by proxy. But earlier in the year, of course, there were a bunch of tariffs that were imposed on foreign countries for the things that we receive. And, that's kind of, however you want to look at it, it is a type of trade war, WAR, without shots being fired. But, it's now reached here in America domestically with the auto industry, which is what I'm a part of. Just like they did earlier in the year. I think the impact was supposed to occur like in February, but they postponed it 30 days. Now we're kind of under the same umbrella with the auto industry and the imports and stuff. It was supposed to take place at the first of this month. Now we are reaching the tail end of this month. As we roll into April next week, it will presumptively take effect. What will that mean? I don't think anybody fully knows. Here in the big three, there's a whole lot of tough talk and bravado, as is often the case. Yeah, we got things in check. Yep, everything's in order. Yep, we got everything that we need. A whole lot of that type of bravado. But you don't really know what's going to happen until, the conveyors stop rolling, the just-in-time shipments stop coming, or, the explosion in costs for operations start to take place. What that's going to mean for the bottom line. Operational and production costs, things of that sort. Here I am, a part of the labor force. I'm already noticing that there's kind of a little bit of writing on the wall. I just changed shifts in recent weeks. On the other shift that I was a part of, it was every day many people missing. In fact, there was an all people's meeting that brought about the disclosure that there was well over 200 plus people that were out on sick leave, and that number did not seem to be decreasing at all. So every single day there were overs and unders offered, just to provide enough manpower to run the facility. So here we are in this almost final week of March, and you got children and part of schools. They got spring breaks going on. In fact, my family's traveling right now. I'm still here at work. Thank you very much. But that brought about an opportunity that I thought would be available, which would be vast amounts of overtime. I figure, hey, if I'm just at home, me and my dog, got a family friend that can let him out, and I can stay and work some overtime, put a little more butter on my biscuits. But it doesn't seem to be the case. Here I am, day 3 into a 6-day scheduled work week, and I haven't been offered anything. Nothing for coming in early, nothing for staying late. Which is quite strange, because like I said, the previous week, the shift that I just came off of, there were managers on the line, which isn't supposed to be happening, to cover the high absenteeism. So here we are in this week, and almost miraculously, they figured out how to keep the system full and running efficiently, and so much so that they can cut back on the labor. 7.5s instead of the nationally contract ordained 8-hour shifts that we fought to have. So kind of strange. Well, this afternoon, after another 7.5 shift, I've always opted to just stick around and do my 8 hours, be a good boy, not leave any coins and tokens on the table. I heard from a member of leadership that there was an email that went out that said no gross excess of overtime. Only offer it for, just paraphrasing, for the most extreme cases. So it seems to me, like I said earlier, the writing's on the wall there. They are tightening the belt as well. I would imagine, up the food chain and command, in the hierarchy of management, there's probably a lot of potential anxiety and concerns, uncertainty as to what next week, next month will hold in regards to how the Trump tariffs will impact the facility's ability to run. If that's going to, put a system for the food or the supply chain with our suppliers and other vendors that provide us the parts to assemble and manufacture the vehicles that we produce, or what? And that's what if I just want to summarize, this is getting a little long-winded. I apologize for that, but hey, I'm just speaking my thoughts. This is what Off the Cuff is all about. Long before this election cycle took place, there were a lot of precursors that just kind of, let me know that this was likely going to be another COVID type of year. Different type of illness, but similar type of impact. What I mean by that is, when we were going through the pandemic, there were chips shortages. We couldn't get from Taiwan anymore because they weren't being produced in America anymore. Semiconductors were, plentiful at one point, but then suddenly it's like the well dried up. Could nobody get them. So much so that the business style changed significantly. Something that I'd never heard of growing up in my parents' GM factory home. Building built shy. So you can build an entire vehicle, but the heated seats just shy. You didn't have the chips to do that. The vehicle is built, rolls off the line, but no one can operate it thereafter because they didn't have the steering wheel. It was built just shy. So when the manufacturer of that product completed their process, then they would deliver what was needed to complete that built shy unit so that it could be shipped to the dealership and then sold to a customer. I surmise that this year could be the same type of disruption where there will be shortages in the supply chain. And what that meant was, cutbacks on the production week, things of that sort. So I hope that's not the case, but like I was saying, I believe that might actually be what's about to occur. As spring comes into effect, generally speaking, here in the Western world, Americans go out, do their spring cleaning, and then they go and test drive some vehicles that they are interested in purchasing later on in the year when, Memorial Day hits or something like that. It's generally when we're working, maximum overtime to produce highly in-demand vehicles for a customer base that's willing to spend, large amounts of money to purchase the vehicles that we produce. I don't know if that's going to be the norm, the custom, the trend this year, because, like I said, this writing that's on the wall, the bread house is running a little bit dry in regards to the overtime. They're pinching pennies. They're scaling back. That's not something that you generally see, especially when we just had a recent meeting where they mentioned that there's literally a 20-odd someday supply on our best-selling vehicle. That's a very low number. Contrast with Ford, who has some vehicles that were generally popular, sitting at about 120-day supply. When people are not spending the money to buy those products and they're just sitting around on dealers' lots because the dealerships can't sell them, well, that for the manufacturer gets back to high levels of anxiety and stress, because if you're running multiple shifts, they might decide to cut the shift because you've overproduced. Nobody wants to see that happen. I don't want to see that happen. Yet that's the feast and famine dynamic of this industry that happens in 4, 8, 10-year cycles. We're probably in another one right now. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds, what will ultimately take place. But like I said, there is a writing that's on the wall right now. So, don't eat a filet a day. Stay away from the filet. Maybe just decide to have a Chick-fil-A or make your own Chick-fil-A. I don't know. I'm just getting corny, long-winded, like I said. So thanks for listening. God bless. We'll do this again sometime soon to round off the cup. Peace.